So with that wind up, Julie, do you want to get us started today?
Thanks, Josh. I had a couple questions on Iran.
Okay.
Officials in Switzerland are starting to talk about the idea of extending the talks beyond the midnight deadline if there's enough sign of progress. So I wonder two things. One, do you see enough signs of progress today to extend beyond midnight? And how flexible is the president willing to be on this deadline? Are we talking about going into another day, another week?
Well, Julie, I can tell you that the president has been updated already today on the latest status of the ongoing talks in Switzerland to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. I would not rule out the president possibly being in touch with members of the negotiating team later today. We'll do our best to keep you updated on that situation. The update that I've received is that our negotiators have determined, over the context of a mostly sleepless night last night and long negotiations over the course of the day in Europe today, that they're going to continue these conversations tomorrow as long as, well, if necessary, and as long as the conversations continue to be productive. Now, the president's been very clear that we've been having these conversations for more than a year now. The international community, standing alongside the United States, is seeking very specific and very serious commitments from the Iranians to shut down every pathway they have to a nuclear weapon, and to agree to intrusive inspections to verify their compliance with the agreement. And we've been very clear that if after a year of negotiating that Iran is not in a position to make those serious commitments, that we're going to be prepared to consider other alternatives. But if necessary, if the conversations continue to be productive, it's possible that the talks could continue into tomorrow.
So that decision hasn't been made yet?
Right now, it's still March 31st. Our negotiators are engaged in serious negotiations that have been going on for not just over the course of the last year, which is relevant here, but also over the last day. They've been engaged in very serious negotiations. And if it's necessary, and when I say if it's necessary, I mean if it's midnight and a deal has not been reached, but the conversations continue to be productive, then they'd be prepared to continue the talks into tomorrow.
And does that apply to then another day and another day after that? I mean, at what point do you reach your limit on these short extensions?
Well, I think it's fair to say that we've reached our limit right now in as far as...
You haven't if you're willing to agree
Well,
to
in as far as the conversations have been going on for more than a year, we've established this deadline for trying to reach a political agreement whereby we would have a framework that would guide the technical negotiations that would have to continue into June. But at the same time, it also doesn't make sense if we are getting serious engagement from the other side to just abruptly end the talks based on this deadline. Because the fact is, if we are making progress toward the finish line, then we should keep going. But ultimately, this is, like I said, something that we've been talking about for more than a year now, and it's time for Iran to make the serious commitments that they know the international community is expecting them to make to reach an agreement. And if they're not willing to make those serious commitments, then the United States will, alongside the international community, will be in a position of having to consider some other alternatives.